The US Air Force just resurrected a KC-135 tanker from the grave, in what experts are calling a unique and yet concerning report. Plus, Iran just shot down another MQ-9 Reaper, and the F-35 received its biggest upgrade yet. I'm Thomas Mott, this is MachSquawk. Alright, so there's a ton of news happening today, from a KC-135 at the US Boneyard being resurrected from the dead. We'll start there. Then F-35s are being outfitted with cruise missiles. We had our first official test flight. And last but not least, more conflict over Iran. An MQ-9 Reaper reportedly was just shot down. But I think the wildest story of the three has to be the United States Air Force confirming they just pulled a KC-135 tanker out of the famous Boneyard storage facility at Davis Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona, with a spokesperson on the official matter saying, quote, KC-135 program office request prompted the 309 Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Group, or AMARG, to regenerate the KC-135R tail number 58-011 to support operational requirements, and that aircraft officially departed the Boneyard on April 2nd and flew to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma to begin repairs. Although, according to the open source flight tracking, apparently there was not one, but two KC-135s, 51-011 and 51-0018, that flew from DM to Tinker Air Force Base, again in Oklahoma. Which overall, this is a very interesting story because usually when you send an aircraft like a KC-135, back in 2017, by the way, to the Boneyard, you're not going to resurrect it to active flying status many years later. But technically, it has happened in the past, most recently back in 2024, as the Air Force reactivated a B-1 Lancer from the Boneyard and just recently said it was ready to join the operational fleet. And then, even further back in history, the Air Force quietly reactivated a number of F-117 Nighthawks from dry storage at DM, aka inside hangars, not actually out there in the actual elements of the Boneyard, and those are still flying today. And so on the surface, this could just be a fun story like, hey, look, we're bringing back a KC-135, it was at the Boneyard, it's going to fly again. Experts are thinking this is a much bigger, overall, broader story, and that has to do with the war in Iran. Just weeks before this April 2nd trip from the actual Boneyard, a KC-135 crashed in western Iraq after a midair collision with another KC-135. And then we got more photos of other KC-135s with visible signs of shrapnel damage from the war in Iran, potentially a part of the 5 tankers that were struck during an Iranian long-range missile strike on the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia on March 14th, which has led a lot of experts to wonder how many KC-135s have actually been damaged during Operation Epic Fury. Well, the Air Force has technically released some numbers on how many KC-135s have been damaged during Operation Epic Fury. It still is technically unclear if there were more that we don't know about. But it's also unclear how many active KC-135s are operational right now throughout the branches of the United States Air Force, as the nearly 60-year-old aircraft's last official inventory numbers came back in 2024, with 151 planes on active duty, 163 with the Air National Guard, and 62 with the Air Force Reserves. Over the past couple of years, the Pentagon has been slowly trying to retire a bunch of their KC-135s to make room for the tanker's new replacement, the KC-46 Pegasus. However, the tanker of the future has had a bevy of problems from its stiff boom refueling issue, which notably does not allow for aircraft like the A-10 to attach, as well as their new remote vision system issue, which created all sorts of problems because the boom operators were not looking out the back of a window like they did in the KC-135, as instead, inside the Pegasus, if you're a boom operator, you look at a screen, creating depth perception issues, lighting distortion, and poor visibility in certain conditions. As of today, the Air Force has officially delivered roughly 105 KC-46s. However, the fact that they are going to the United States Boneyard at Davis Monthan Air Force Base and resurrecting an old KC-135 does make you wonder how many of those 46s are actually operational, and did they lose more KC-135s than we know about? Now, speaking of losses of U.S. aircraft, and in this case, Iran, the Pentagon did recently release the list of known aircraft losses, which included 4 Strike Eagles, an A-10, an E-3 AWACS, 2 MC-130 Hercules, and the aforementioned KC-135s, and nearly 30 MQ-9 Reapers. Which, despite the large numbers, the Secretary of the Air Force did tell Congress this week that the remote-operated MQ-9s were, quote, perhaps the most valuable player in the Iran conflict, adding that, quote, no other platform is even close to the MQ-9. And staying on the topic of RPAs, it does appear that the most recent conflict over the Strait of Hormuz did involve more MQ-9 Reapers. As just the other day, according to U.S. officials, U.S. forces observed 2 Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps vessels laying mines, and they therefore sunk the ships. That prompted the Iranians to shoot at U.S. warplanes with surface-to-air missiles. The U.S. responded in turn by attacking Iranian missile launchers near the Strait of Hormuz. The ships obviously were destroyed. However, Iran has claimed that it shot down another, this would be 31, MQ-9 Reaper drone during the operation, which they show here in this video. Is it true or not? I don't know, but there is the video nonetheless. Iran also said it fired on a U.S. Air Force F-35 and an RQ-4 type drone in the area. However, obviously, those were not confirmed to have been hit. This new conflict aside, it is fascinating to see how the Air Force actually views the MQ-9 because, yes, they have a large number of losses so far during Operation Epic Fury. However, because they are unmanned, the Air Force seems unfazed by the losses and continues to emphasize just how important they've been overall during this conflict. Now, moving back to manned aircraft, and specifically the F-35, we just got a very interesting update earlier this week about brand new ordnance being tested on the JSF platform. As the UK confirmed again earlier this year, the F-35 Joint Program Office completed its first test flight of 4 Spear 3 cruise missiles at a naval air station in Maryland. Now, the Spear 3 is a big deal for a number of reasons, as it's built by Lockheed Martin, and they call it the Selective Precision Effects at Range, that's where the Spear name is, as it's a much smaller version of said cruise missiles capable of still hitting targets over 60 miles away. And the fact that they are a much smaller version of a cruise missile is the key factor here because they fit inside the internal weapons bay of an F-35. With this picture right here showing the 4 cruise missiles actually inside the JSF, which I guess does confirm that you could carry a total of 8 Spear 3s potentially in both weapon bays of the F-35. Now, keeping ordnance inside actually means keeping the full stealth capabilities of the 5th-gen fighter, which is a massive deal in today's combat zones and a huge step forward for the weapons system, as the F-35 does have the capability, as you see here, of holding ordnance on its wing pylons. However, whenever you do that, it immediately disrupts the stealth capability of the aircraft overall. The fact that Lockheed Martin and the JSF are able to not only make cruise missiles, but fit them inside the internal weapons bay is the big story of the day here for the JSF and a massive leap forward for that program. Now, last but not least, but finishing here with the F-35, one more story. I love the fact that the Italian Air Force just released these images of their F-35B variants successfully landing on a highway for the very first time during exercise Imminent Field 26 in Finland, obviously showcasing the jump jet takeoff and landing abilities of the Bravo variant in Europe, which allows this version of the JSF to operate from places beyond traditional air bases. Pretty wild to see. Imagine an F-35 landing on a highway near you. Now, of course, plenty more aviation news coming the next couple of days and weeks, but I want to go ahead and finish today's show by thanking you guys for getting this channel so quickly over 1,000 subscribers. It's been unbelievable. I want this to become your daily, weekly, one-stop shop for all military aviation news. That is my promise to you guys. Drop a like. Let me know what you guys think about the stories down below in the comments section, and be subscribed. Plenty more stuff will happen, plenty more updates. We'll cover it all here. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been MachSquawk.